So if you don't know Rob is the executive director for Reach Church. Woo! Which Reach Church is, this is their church offices, 20s and 30s is a part of Reach Church. Okay, it says Rob's bio. Rob is an introvert who grew up on the east side of Seattle in the 90s. I don't know why that's funny. That's just like a fact. He's lived in 3 other countries and eventually, Rob, when you come up here, can you tell us what they are? I would like to know. He's lived in 3 other countries and eventually moved back to Bothell, where he is married to the invincible Vanessa, and they live with their 4 kids, 13 chickens, and 2 goats. Rob, I'm not done. Rob has been a part of Reach since the beginning of the church, and after a career in tech, he's been helping lead Reach as its executive director since 2019. He has no credentials or expertise or special skills. I'm so sweaty. Okay. He has no credentials or expertise or special skills to speak on friendship tonight, but he's pretty convinced that friendships are essential to your well-being, health, and relationship with Jesus. Woo! Rob Garey!
We're going to get through that, but we did. And I'm so grateful. That's perfect. That'll be great. Thank you, Taylor. That was awesome. I wrote most of that, but I did not plan on it being delivered in that way. We actually had 14 chickens, but we found out after they grew up that we actually had a rooster in the mix. And the way we found out is that we would get a wake-up call very early in the morning. And so there's apparently a place you can take your rooster if you don't want it anymore. There are rooster sanctuaries that we took the rooster to. We don't know what happens after you take the rooster there, but that's why we have 13 chickens and not 14 now anymore. It is so good to be with you all. I think it was over a year ago now when I was meeting with Kelsey and the 20s and 30s leadership team, and there was such intentionality in dreaming and praying and planning what not only these events and these spaces could look like, but what this community could become. And it is incredible to see where we are a year now later, the reality of what God is doing in this space, the people he's drawing together, you who are showing up in this space, not only to grow and learn more about Jesus, whether you've been following him your whole life or whether this is a days old curiosity of who this person is. We are so grateful that you're here. We've been praying for you. The intentionality on behalf of Reach to invest in enable a space like this to become a reality is for you. It is for you. And in that as well, I hope there's been such connection and community and relationships that have been forged in this space as well. And that is the topic we get to talk about today. I am no expert on friendship. I have no skills or credentials necessarily. A lot of today will be about sharing my own story and journey with friendship, some of the milestones along the way that I feel like God has taught me. And then something I brought as well, I brought two friends with me actually. A friend of mine who I've known for many decades, and then a friend of mine who I've known for, I think it's still months, measured in months. But I want to just kind of share a bit of our story as well to bring maybe some ideas and some things that will be helpful for you. And so I also am aware how this topic, friendship, friends are the source of some of the greatest experiences of our life. The ability to be known, the ability to have shared experience and depth of relationship with someone is one of the most beautiful, incredible gifts that we have in this life. And as well, on the other side of the spectrum, friendship friends can be a source of heartbreak. It can be a source of conflict. It can be a source of tension. And you might even find yourself today in the room in that space where you are living with the angst or even the tension with someone you would call friend. And I just want to reassure you tonight, we see you, and even tonight about what we want to talk about is the totality of friendship. Because it is something so beautiful, and the possibilities of friendship are so deep. There are some things I believe, one of my convictions is that there are aspects of who Jesus is, of who he's actually created us to be that are only discoverable through another person, that are only revealed by being in community and by having others who know us. And not just our skills, our resume, what we do for work, where we're from, but who know us, who know the intricacies of how God has created us to be, how he's wired us to be, and what he's called us to be. And so I have such expectation for just even what God wants to do in our hearts tonight about this, because community relationships, friendships are so essential. And so that's what we got tonight. I know as well, there are so many, everyone has so many varied experiences with this. And as well, I recognize I'm speaking just on behalf as a guy. I know the experience for the ladies might be different and nuanced in some certain ways, which we can maybe explore in conversation later. But I'm really grateful to be here. I'm really grateful to be here in this space and excited for the conversation that we get to have. And so, to begin, even from my own story, perhaps you can relate. For most of us, the journey of friendship begins when we are young and growing up in our family, in our parents' home. And it's a unique situation, unique season of life, because we so oftentimes don't get to actually choose who our friends are, because by default, either our parents are or our neighborhood is. We basically have a relationship with those who are mostly in proximity with us, maybe have some affinity with, whether it's around a sport or an activity or something like that. And for many of us, that is our initial experience, a glimpse of friendship. It is on the sandlot growing up with our neighbors. For me, I know I would almost say the high watermark for many of us in our friendship is in a community of friends is the experience of going to college. Isn't this the most adorable college stock photo that I found here to depict? Oh, there it is. Sorry. This photo, the high watermark, if I was able to go to a residential kind of college experience, and it's this crazy, surreal, almost artificial environment where you live next door to people, you're in this deep environment where you get to have a depth of relationship that gets forged quickly. And for many of us, that is maybe perhaps the purest experience of community, the richness of it, of having friends in that space. And it can be a little disorienting when we step out of that environment, and it's not as accessible, and we don't have as many people that are in proximity to us in our life. Big part of my experience growing up was also how my vision of friendship was shaped by pop culture. You all might be too young to know who these people all are. Do you know who these people are? No? Okay. Okay, good. There were so many visions and creative expressions for me growing up in the 90s and 2000s of what friendship looked like. And shows like Friends, Seinfeld, certain movies depicted this fantasy experience where we're all next door neighbors in an apartment in New York City, and we all kind of had all this free time and lots of money to just kind of lounge around and have experiences. And that kind of shapes a vision of what friendship might look like. For me, a big part of my journey as well, I'm a little bit of a history nerd, and ended up understanding and learning and being inspired by certain stories in the past of friends. Friends who went on, because of that friendship, ended up impacting history in really beautiful and impactful ways. Some of this plays out, again, in pop culture. You guys young enough to know who these folks are? Goonies, yes. This was a formative film for me growing up, of showing how friendship, in some ways in contrast to romance and a couple where you're more face-to-face, friendship so oftentimes is shoulder-to-shoulder. And I became, as I got older, inspired by the idea of how friendship is being shoulder-to-shoulder with brothers and sisters, actually focusing on working towards an objective, some outcome that we might want to see in the world. And so whether it's in film or whether it's in history, certain friends, this is a picture of a group called the Inklings. On the far left is C.S. Lewis. On the far right is J.R. Tolkien. And the Inklings were an incredible group of scholars, of writers, of poets who would gather in a small pub in Oxford called the Eagle and Child, and they would week after week come and bring their ideas, share their writing, read and encourage one another. They were also all followers of Jesus, and so they would integrate their faith into this joint passion for writing in storytelling. And we get to see how friendship can actually impact the world. And I was very inspired and motivated by this. But perhaps the most pivotal milestone for me in my understanding of friendship was a realization as a young adult when I looked to my family and the family of my friends, specifically our fathers. We realized that our dads didn't have any friends. Your dad probably doesn't have many friends, if you're honest with yourself. And I was really haunted by this reality, even as a teenager, by looking ahead a couple decades at our dads and realizing that, yes, they might be in a very healthy marriage, they might be have a really rewarding, robust career, but recognizing that why was my dad alone? Why was he not known by other men, by other friends? And I think this was something that really caught my attention. And even with a group of friends as teenagers, it instilled a sense of intentionality of what are things I need to do now in my life such that I have friends when I'm 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. What are the intentional steps, the investments, planting seeds of investment in certain key relationships such that I don't find myself alone in that way someday. And there's this is something, this truth, this biblical truth of that we were not created and it's not good for us to be alone, is recognized it experientially. We're actually starting to see it more and more, even in the social sciences. We see that there's one of the incredible studies that's out of Harvard is called the Grant Study. It started in the 1930s, and now it has tracked over 1,000 people over the full duration of their life, and really trying to answer the question, what are the ingredients, what are the elements that bring well-being to someone's life? And they have concluded through this longitudinal study over many, many decades that strong relationships are the strongest predictor of life satisfaction across a bunch of different measurements. And this is and the presence of strong relationships is a better predictor of long and happy lives than many of the other things that we focus on, whether it be socioeconomics or how much wealth we have or how much notoriety and popularity we have, what our IQ is, or even our genetics. It is the presence of strong relationships. And it would even go, out of this study, they'll even go further to say that one of the most surprising findings is that our relationships actually impact even our physical health. Even our physical health, such that the director of this study would say taking care of your body, your nutrition, health, exercise, all of that is important, but tending to your relationships is a form of self-care as well. And this is one of the remarkable revelations that has come from this study that has spanned most of the 20th century. And so I've come to a conclusion that the ultimate flex in life is to be someone old with friends, to be kind of like these guys. Who are hanging out in their 60s, 70s, 80s even, and that they can say that I have a friend. I have friends who I know and who know me. And that there is an importance that this doesn't just happen accidentally, that there is intentionality, that there is a tending to our relationships, our friendships that is upon us to live out with wisdom, with courage, with intentionality. And so one of the big ideas, a big idea I want to share today is this idea of trust. That friendship is established upon a foundation of, and it flourishes through trust between two people, trust amongst a group of friends, trust amongst an entire community, trust even in a society, amongst individuals and with our institutions. Trust is the currency, it is the ingredient, it is the foundation upon which relationships and friendships in particular are established. And I want to share a specific view of trust that I have found immensely helpful. I've shared this a bunch with our staff at Reach as well, and it's a little nerdy, but I'm excited to share it with you because I found it to be a very helpful, practical tool that I'm able to bring into any one of my relationships, whether it's in a leadership context, whether this is with my wife, whether this is in my relationship with certain friends. And so what I'm going to show you here, go with me on this. It's a little nerdy. It's a formula, okay? It's a formula. And if you remember fractions, what's on the top of a fraction? Remember? Numerator, very good. What's on the bottom? Denominator. Okay, so we're going to look at a formula that I believe has some of the essential ingredients of trust that plays out in all of our relationships. And I'm going to talk through each of these, so don't be alarmed. Okay, here it is. This is trust. So these are the key elements of trust. Clarity in a relationship, reliability in a relationship, authenticity in our relationships, and the degree to which it is all about our self-orientation or not. Let me explain. In the numerator, we have these three elements that combined add up to a certain value. And if we take each of these, we'll start on the far left, clarity. Clarity is all about our communication. It is all about how we state our intentions in a relationship, in a friendship. It absolutely includes our verbal communication, but it also might include our written communication and other ways, our body language. It includes how we express ourselves and our intentions in a relationship, in a friendship, in what we desire, in what we want to see in another person. This is all about the way we communicate with clarity. So often at Reach, we say clarity is kindness, because without clarity in communication and what we intend, oftentimes that leaves confusion and ambiguity. And so in this, clarity is an essential ingredient to fostering, building trust with someone. It is all about how we communicate our intentions. Now, the second piece, reliability. This is actually where we are not just hearers of the word, we are not just those who articulate a word, but we are actually doers of what we say we were going to do. Reliability is closely connected to clarity because this is all about the experience of following through on what our intentions are. It's how we show up based upon what we have articulated that our intentions and our desires are in a relationship. The third piece to this in the numerator is authenticity, that you could be extremely clear in your communication. You could be very candid, direct, could be crystal clear for someone. And you could actually show up day after day in that way in a particular friendship. But if there is not a bringing of yourself, if there is not a bringing and even risking, dare I say risking with vulnerability and honesty and transparency in a relationship, there will be less trust present in that friendship. And the beauty of this formula is that all of these elements in the numerator add up to create a value. You can even get as nerdy as adding a quantitative value in this. You can even be thinking about a particular relationship right now or friendship right now in how would you grade, how would you mark the clarity, the reliability, the authenticity of that person. And you can even give it a score. And the wonderful thing about this is that you could be crushing all of these top categories. I feel like in most of my relationships, I actually feel pretty strong in clarity and reliability. I'm not as great in authenticity. I'm more reticent to bring my heart, my feelings, my transparency, and even vulnerability into a relationship. And I actually think that has hindered me at certain seasons and points in my life and in my friendships. Even though I might have lots of integrity in terms of what I say and the way I'm showing up. You can flip-flop this as well. There's probably some friendships, some people you know who have no problem at all being vulnerable, no problem at all being their true, authentic self. And yet their communication or their follow-through is perhaps lacking. And so I love the clarity of this upper piece. And the compelling part of this to me is that someone could be crushing all of these categories. And yet if at the end of the day, in that relationship, all of these only serve to be oriented towards that individual, you end up degrading the possibility for trust in this relationship. If you have a very high number in the numerator, but an even higher number in the denominator, then that will equate to a lower value, a lower presence of trust in that relationship. I love this as a diagnostic tool as well, not only for how I'm showing up for someone in a particular friendship, but it is also a way to look at perhaps you have a friendship that has gone awry. perhaps a friendship where there is tension, where there has been the presence of conflict. And I find this to be a really helpful way to look at that friendship and identify what might have gone wrong there. Where has my heart perhaps been impacted by that friend? Were they maybe showing up in different ways and bringing their authentic heart into it, but was there just a lot of ambiguity in what they're doing and the way they're wanting to engage in friendship? Or are they all talk? Is it all talk? Are they all stating all these best intentions and these grand schemes for a particular friendship, and they're bringing their heart to it, but there's zero follow through? I find this to be a really helpful way to layer over certain friendships and relationships, to be able to maybe evaluate and even highlight in my own heart what has perhaps gone awry, and then gives me language, gives me specificity with which to engage with that person on, and to be able to give them feedback in that way. And so I hope this is helpful. And one of the last thing I'll say before I invite one of my friends up here to join us is taking this and applying this upon every, I think this is applicable. It is universal enough to be applied to every one of your friendships. I think every one of your relationships, even how we interact with organizations or communities of people. I think this applies to it. And in a really beautiful, compelling way, I think this also applies to our relationship with Jesus. The relationship with Jesus, that our Christian faith says that we are, not only can we, but we are invited to put all of our hope, all of our trust in him, because his clarity, his intentions, his desires for us have been made clear. They have been made clear through Scripture, through the Holy Spirit in our hearts. It's expressed through the church when we gather and serve and love one another, that he is faithful. He is faithful to his word, that every one of his promises are yes and amen in Jesus, and that God is not about trying to be something other than who he is. He's unable to be anything other than who he is. And that's why I think he invites us to cast aside idols, lesser idols, and acknowledge and worship him for who he is, to know his character, to know the things that make his heart come alive, so that we know his authenticity. And we know, because of what Jesus accomplished for us on the cross, we know that there is no self-orientation, that he poured out his entire life for us, such that when we add all of this up in our relationship with Jesus, that we can have the utmost trust and hope and faith in him. And so I hope this is a helpful tool, helpful framework for you as you think about friendships, relationships, and areas for yourself, maybe where you can show up more intentionally with more specificity in your friendships and cultivating trust to deepen those friendships, but then also to evaluate, to look at others in your circle, in your community, and perhaps lead to helpful conversations on where they can show up even better for you, and even find ways for you to find healing in maybe ways you have been underserved. And so I want to take a moment now to welcome up here a friend of mine who I've known since the 90s. He's one of my oldest friends, not just because he's older than me, but I've known him for a really, really long time. And his name is Josh Hebert. He is a pastor. He climbs mountains. He's a mountaineer. He's a CrossFitter, but I'll say he's a humble CrossFitter. So you wouldn't know that he CrossFits because he doesn't. Sorry, Josh. Let's welcome Josh Hebert to the stage here.
Dude, you're so weird.
I love you, my friend.
Am I going to sit in the chair?
Yeah, you're going to go over there.
Yep. Okay, super sweet.
Yep. And then I will slide in here.
And I'm totally a fake pastor, so I don't know why you talked about that.
No, you live it. You live it, my friend.
I read a book once. Dude, I'm sorry, but
yeah.
Is anybody wondering what happened between this eagle and the kid, and why it was worthy of naming a pub after it?
Oh, the eagle and child? Yeah.
Eagle and child.
It is there could be an interesting story there.
Since you mentioned it, I've been back to like, dude,
what is the background
did the eagle
on that?
latch onto the child?
Oh, God.
And fly away?
The Brits, they name their pubs very uniquely. But
yeah.
Josh and I go back to the 90s. We have been long-standing friends. We've also been in a men's group that has met every month, most months, for coming up on 15 years. 16 years. When we started, most of us were single. Most of us were unemployed, mostly not out of our parents' house, and yet we have gone through many seasons of life to the different seasons. And so one of the things I wanted to share, and Josh, I would love for you to speak to as well, is really to help bring a vision of longevity in friendship. I think so oftentimes in our 20s, it can be difficult to sometimes see past the big questions in our life, the things that are maybe right in front of us, and in the immediacy of community in this moment in our life. But there's been something beautiful that I think with some intentionality, but almost out of just sheer stubbornness, we have just stuck together for a really long time. And I think one of the beautiful things that in the same way that in finance, you've probably heard this idea of compound interest, that allowing something, little deposits each month or each day, grows to something really profound over time. I feel like that's something we and our even group of friends have really been experiencing in some compelling ways. And so I'd love for you to just speak a little bit about what you have experienced in the longevity of friendship, of pushing through, even when it can be difficult, maybe where there's disagreement, conflict, and even just give us a glimpse of what friendship looks like for you in this season of life.
Awesome. Cool, man. Rob, you're so good at like putting these it's like the bumpers at the bowling alley. Yeah, good. Just like, there's the pins.
I need you to stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, Josh.
Totally. Yep. Before I get he hasn't known me for a while. Before we get started, I brought a picture of Rob and I from a while ago. Oh, wow. I don't know if you have that handy. Oh boy. Is that doable?
I've taken over Apple TV.
Oh, you took it over?
I did. I can give it back.
Oh, it's not a big deal.
No, it's not. I want to see it.
I want him to see baby Rob. It's so good. Oh, there's your thing. Oh, there's those guys. Oh, I don't know if you can tell, but this is about 3 years after I met Rob at his graduation from high school. He graduated at 13, as you can see. Yeah, it was great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, met him then. Yeah, so we've been hanging out for a while, really in like a friendship capacity for like 16 years. 16 years.
Wow,
years.
All right. We're getting some clarity in our relationship.
Yeah. Like you said, I'm a little bit older, so the numbers get fuzzy. I love your equation, by the way. It's super good. Your formula. The authenticity part, I think, it's interesting for me, and I'll talk about longevity, I promise. But as you were looking at that, I was thinking about how good that is, the clarity. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so being clear can be challenging for me. Yeah. And then also with authenticity, it's easy for me to sit up in front of a room of people that I mostly don't know and tell you how weird it is to go to the doctor when you turn 50. Like, I can tell you all about that. But if it comes to, even with good friends, getting down into what drives fear, dear Father, what drives fear, insecurity, shame, that takes time. My personality, my wife says every stranger is a friend I haven't met yet. Like, the more the merrier. There's a guy named Larry Osborne that talks about people have different types of, almost like Lego bricks, capacity for friendship. Like my wife, she's got the 4 brick. I'm on 1, and then she has 2 friends. And she's set. She's like, I don't need any more. I'm like the biggest flat green piece you can get. Like, I want as many on there as possible. The problem is it's super thin. Yeah, right. So for me, it takes time being with people in order to get to the point where I feel safe enough to actually share what drives shame and fear and things like that. So over the years, it's been interesting. We've had a couple almost breakups in the group. We had one guy move, one guy opted out, but the guys that are still there, we had 2 that were ready to never be friends again. But it was pretty cool to see what happens in that context where the value of longevity and sticking together through hard things, the group came together, and right in front of us, we had this, it wasn't really an intervention, but it was more like a Seinfeldian airing of grievances, a Festivus thing. And just kind of like getting it on the table in front of each other and like confessing how they'd hurt each other. And that's happened twice, actually. Yeah, once at Ben's house and your house. That was your house, actually. Yeah, it was your house, but some of Ben's comments were my favorites, but yeah.
Talk about what friendship looks like in your season of life right now. I think you've had some unique intentionality that even spans some of the generations. I don't know if you're in a different gen. I'm a millennial. You're Gen X, right? So that's intergenerational.
Yeah, we're pretty different. Yeah. Yeah, I listen to you think, and I'm like, that's
so millennial.
That's not just weird, it's wrong. I'm just kidding. So the generational thing is interesting. For some time now, I've found myself in relationship or even close friendship with people who are at least 10 years younger than me. And now at this stage, I turned 52 this year. Now at this stage, I'm finding that there's another group who are about 20 years younger than me. Right about the 27 to 32 range, somewhere in there, or 28 to 32, whatever numbers make you feel good about what I just said. Pick them and roll with it. I had a friend who is 20 years older than me, so he's in his 70s now. And the value that he brought to my life, just with the life experience that he had, the questions he would ask were different. Also, I found that people who were ahead of me, there was a few things they had that I knew I wanted, but I didn't know how to get there. Yeah. Peace, patience, self-control, kindness, gentleness. Like all these things that are like promised. Yes. They're supposed to be fruits coming out of our lives. Yeah. They would have it. Yeah. Like, I want to be around those people. I got pulled into this group kind of accidentally. Like, I knew a handful of people, but a mutual friend brought us together for one specific moment, and we ended up sticking together for all these years. But I've kind of found myself pulled into a relationship with younger people, and then a few years ago, I really sensed, it's kind of a cheesy, churchy thing to say, but I sensed that God was telling me this next season of your life is about investing and building a relationship with people who are now 20 years younger than me.
That's awesome. I think that was an important part of your story. Even something I just want to underscore for y'all tonight is the beauty and importance of intergenerational friendship. I think that oftentimes is an ideal for us. It's something we desire, but it can be tricky to make happen. Like, how do you get to know someone in their 70s? How do you make that friendship happen when you're in your 20s and 30s?
52. You didn't have to point at me when you said it.
The 70-year-old.
It's like, man, I know I forget things, but geez, right. Dude. Man.
And something I want to encourage you all in, and something that we're increasingly trying to have intentionality, even in our church family at Reach, is being able to facilitate and build those bridges of friendship across the generations. Admittedly, actually, for me as well, one of my best friends in our church is in his 70s. And I absolutely agree with you, Josh, that the perspective, the story, the stories that he's lived, the decades that he's walked with Jesus, the seeing men, seeing women who have suffered well and still run after Jesus, still remain in community, still love and serve their families. There's something so profound about that. And it can be challenging sometimes to find that same wisdom perspective when we're primarily oriented around our peers. And so that's just something I would love even to explore that later tonight and even in the future. If that is a desire on your heart, if that is something you've been longing for in your broader community or friend group, I would love to talk with you more about what that could look like, because we really do aspire. I think there's actually very few communities and contexts in the entire world other than the church where the possibility of friendship can span not just socioeconomics, not just geography, not just ethnicity, but also age and generations. I think the church is uniquely positioned, and God has uniquely graced the church to be a place where those types of relationships and friendships can flourish. And so I want to just encourage you with that tonight. Let's see. Let's get another friend up here, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do that.
Can
awesome.
I add one thing to what you just
Please,
said?
yeah, go.
I think you
for
said
it.
something super valuable. Yeah. I think that perspective on challenges and difficulties and stuff is so important and been really helpful to me. So like you said, I go to a gym over here a couple times a week, and I built houses in Alaska in the wintertime. Yeah, in 1996. And it wasn't a great year. But I go and do a 15-minute workout, and I think about how horrible it is. And if I just, even for a second, flash back to November of 1997, November of 1997, out on the roof of a house in Cold Bay, Alaska, 40-mile-an-hour winds, 15 degrees. I'm like, this workout isn't so bad. And so if someone looks at me and says, this is killing me, I can say, you know what? Yes, this is incredibly difficult and challenging, but you're going to be okay. Yeah, I've seen this before. Yeah. And sometimes we just need someone who can say, I've seen this before. I've been there before. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I want to introduce you to my friend Elbron. Elbron's wonderful. Elbron, why don't you come on up here?
Is this like a talk show? Do I move down the couch?
It is. No, you can. Yeah, if you want to. That's.
I mean, I've been friends longer.
Great. Yeah,
I feel like I've earned this chair.
That is true. Everyone say hi, Elbron. We love Elbron. Elbron is. I will say this. I reached a point in my late 30s where I really thought I was never really going to make new friends. I was like, you know what? I got my wife, my kids. I got my good group of friends here. Pretty busy. I don't really have time or even really need for more friends. And little did I know that the Lord would bring Elbron and many others into my life. So we're actually newer friends. If we go back decades, I mean, it's still, you can probably measure it reasonably in months. Yeah. And Elbron, you moved to the United States about a year and a half ago.
USA.
About a year and a half ago with your family. And one of the things that so struck me early on that about you was how you bravely defied the Seattle freeze. And I want you to share tonight how you did that.
Wow, okay. First, hello everyone. There are some faces I know, some people I know and I love you and we share life together. I see you out there. Some people I'm just getting to know, some people I've shared some experiences with. It is such a pleasure to be here. And it's so cool you all showed up for this. And I'm super grateful for that. So hello. Okay, the question. How did I defy the Seattle freeze? Wow, it's not a small one. Okay. Yeah, so I have 2 little kiddos and a wonderful wife. And I won't give too much background story, but we moved here, kind of a very quick move. We were like, oh, we're going to America. And it made sense in life, and I could share more about that later, but we did it. We just moved here. And we moved here, and we didn't know about the Seattle freeze, which helps, because if someone's like, watch out, then you kind of, get ready for something. And people talked about it. I used to call it Seattle frost, because I wasn't sure. I was like, what is it? Freeze, frost? I'm from Toronto, and so I don't know. And so for us, it was just taking what we can from any relationship and any encounter. So it wasn't like we're here to build level 7 friendships. Like we didn't know how to do that. How do you do that? We're brand new. There's not a single person we knew here when we moved here, genuinely. And so we would bump into people and say hello at the grocery store. We arrived at the end of June, 4th of July. We decided to go to Snoqualmie because we didn't know where to go to watch fireworks. There was someone sitting beside us. I said hello. I've had drinks with him at a pub before. I just sparked a friendship. I think the point is we just kind of decided we are going to see people and say hello. And if hello goes more, we'll go there. And we're going to find people that we can laugh with and just people that seem like good, safe people. And you surround yourself with people that you could build something with. With that, I would say that you're also in a situation in life. I work. We decided to find a church, so Google Map and zooming in and clicking on churches and seeing the upside down arc that is reach and zooming in and yelling to my wife, it looks nice. They got blue lights on stage, and we just showed up. So you kind of build scenarios in your life where you could double click and there's people because you got to get out. You got to do things. Can I share a quick story about that quick? It is not easy moving countries. The paperwork and the cars. I had to do my driver's test again. Yes, I have gray in my beard. And then I had to drive and 911 driving instruction in Redmond. That's where I went. It was amazing. It was wonderfully crazy what we had to do. And I loved it. I loved every moment. At some point, my wife told me, get out and go make friends. I'm sitting in this small condo with I need friends to survive. I have friend energy. I need humans to interact with. I don't know who you are, but if I'm desperate, I'll just not desperate, I just will find you and talk to you. I will just talk to anyone, and I really enjoy human beings and interactions. And we just shared first time we met, we shared a good interaction. I like you. I just want to tell you that. I like these moments. I don't feel awkward about them. That's just how I've been made, I think. And I don't know, I thrive on that. So I had zero of that at this point. My workplace is empty. No one's showing up. I'm the only one going in. And I'm like, oh man, I can't double click on work. It was before we found a church. And my wife's like, go find friends. Get out of the house. And I'm like, what does this mean? Where, do I go to a pub and ask for a Budweiser and talk to a stranger? I didn't know what that would look like. Downstairs, we had a volleyball court, and there's some Ukrainian people that would play volleyball on a Monday. And I decided, I'll put on shorts and a t-shirt. I don't play volleyball. It was just I could double click on Ukrainian friends or humans. And they spoke Ukrainian the whole time, so I wasn't going to be too successful with friendships there. But I went, they weren't playing, so I was like, I can't go back up. She's such a loving and supportive wife. She knows when to push me. And so I just Google mapped volleyball courts. I went to Houghton Beach, and these dudes are spiking, and they're like 2-on-2, and it's beautiful, and I can't play volleyball, so no. And then I went to Kirkland Corridor. And I was on the phone with my friend, my best friend back in Toronto, and I took a photo. I still have that photo. And I just saw a bunch of people like you. And it was a Mormon version of you, actually. It was, they collect. And I went, and I just in my shorts and my t-shirt was just stood by until someone made eye contact. I'm like, sucker, you made eye contact. I'm like, hi, I'm Elbron. And then I just asked, hey, are you guys just friends? They're like, yeah, we're just friends. They're like, stranger, outsider. And I asked if I could play, and I played volleyball with them. And they didn't really play volleyball because there was 1,000 of them on one volleyball court. But I got out. My heart was beating, and I was super nervous. And they all looked my age, but they were 20 years younger than me. I went again the next day. I went on Tuesday. And do you know Farine, the coffee shop? Yeah. Oh, okay. Whoa. Lots of love for Farine. Pastries are so good. Butter is good. I just went the next day, and it was a different group of people, also my age, because I can't see age, by the way. You're all my age. And I went and played volleyball with them. I could tell you, can I keep going? I'm talking a lot. All right. I could tell you I went, and they played Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they seemed like a cool bunch of people. I went on Thursday. My volleyball skills are getting better. So Tuesday and Thursday I went, and the next week, Tuesday, I went. This could be teary for me. A girl named Kaku said my name. I haven't had months of anyone saying, Elbron. You guys got to know, I turned around and cried quick, and it was so awkward. I'm literally walking towards her, she's like, Elbron. And I'm like, oh no. I did not know how badly I needed just someone to say my name. And that rocked my heart. Kaku, she's in Paris studying now for her MBA. Bless ya. That became my people. And I would go all the time. We did Friendsgiving together. We had them all over. We did Christmas. My fridge has their photos on them. I love every one of them. We love Farine because of the people. We often just go and just say hello. Farine opened up in the building downstairs where I lived. It was just like Farine was coming to me. Friendships were just kind of happening. And honestly, my wife laughed. She's like, they're just getting their driver's license. They're way younger. I'm like, they're my age. And then we discovered they weren't. And I want to say this one last thing, that those were still friendships. I mean, they're not like I would say my friendship with Rob is so different, and some of you in the room is so different. But man, those were needed to see a human and say hello and have an interaction and know what they're going through, and they share what we're going through, and bring them over for meals and talk about, a couple was married and they were young, and just sit around with them. Those were made for relationships. We're made for encounters. We're social beings because the one who made us put that in us because that's who he is. He's relational. And so I longed for that any way it was, and I'll take it in any shape I've learned. And some you cherish closely and you share more the way you said. You learn to be vulnerable. And others, you just learn to laugh, and we all need that too.
Awesome.
Okay, question one.
I have one last question for you. We are going to jump into Q&R here in a moment. But Elbron, something I've observed about you and I so love about you is the intentionality that you bring to every moment. You're very present in interactions, in your listening, in your seeing another person. And I would love for you to talk about just the gratitude that you bring into even those micro interactions or moments. I think oftentimes we can get hung up on that idealized level 99 vision of friendship that is a beautiful and good thing, but sometimes even that can become an idol, and that if a friendship is not satisfying maybe some of our expectations or needs in a way, it can actually lead to discouragement or discontentment. I think something you bring to every one of those interactions is this heart of gratitude. And I think those who know you well experience that. I'd love for you to just talk about that heart posture and maybe where that comes from, and then we'll jump into Q&R here, Edwin, in maybe 2 minutes.
It wasn't always that way. I used to think I was the funny guy in the group, but really I just made fun of people or myself. I think what I'm trying to say is I didn't know how to be grateful. Gratitude wasn't the battery driving my friendships. It was a lot of social interactions where I could get people to laugh because I thought that's nice. I feel good. And I realized, I got some sorting out to do in my life. And at this point, for me, I have lots more sorting out to do, which I'm so excited for. But I really am grateful for, you're making eye contact with me, and it's very bright, and I'm grateful for this. I mean, there's something nice about, I'm really grateful that you're all here. And I think when I'm with people, there's an opportunity to smile and just say hello. Such a precious thing. It's not small. It could be even kids, by the way. I've learned I overlook kids, but man, you at church or around, kids running around, just, hey, how's your day? And just connecting. And for me, it was just, I don't know. I enjoy human beings, and there is something so precious, and it's not that far. Okay, I know what I want to say. It's not that far from an initial engagement with anyone, even if you know them, to just hit something that's like a heart connect. Mm-hmm. And it's actually just gratitude. I start with just I'm grateful to be here. And I just get out of my own head, my ego, my self-preservation. You can't drive friendship with self-preservation. It won't go far. Rather, your quotient at the bottom was, I don't know, you just have to there's someone in front of me, they're human, they went through something, they're doing something today, how are you? And my gosh, we find similarities. We find maybe a reflection of us. We find a journey and a conversation. So I think I am genuinely grateful for encounters and engagements.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, guys. Let's welcome Edwin up here, who's going to take us through the Q&R.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Thank you so much, Josh and Ilron. Came for a little talk on faith and friendship. I got a little bit better at math during it, which was great. So we do want to do Q&R. We do this every time we come up. It's a really intentional time for us to get some practical knowledge out of these great guys on stage. So we have the Slido up here. It's been up the whole time. Please go through and either add questions or the questions that you want us to ask up here. We've got about 10 minutes to do this. We're going to do it relatively rapid fire, guys. And so I will kind of lead us through. But we're going to start with a nice and easy one for you on friendship breakups. So coming in hot. Friendship breakups aren't talked about often. How do I navigate my friend breaking up with me? And what advice do you have if you want to break up with a friend? Don't all jump at that one.
Go, Rob, go.
No. This is actually, I think, one of the contexts where the trust formula can actually be very, very helpful in diagnosing perhaps what has happened in a particular friendship with someone. Is it around the clarity of communication? Is it just in the lack of follow through? Is there a holding back, a lack of transparency and authenticity in that relationship? Or at the end of the day, is there just a selfishness? Is there a self-preservation that is coming to the forefront in that? I think the ability to identify what is maybe the root cause is, I think, a really important kind of step in evaluating a friendship and what are the next steps, because from that might flow the need to articulate boundaries, or even the need to we didn't even talk about the seasonality within friendship, but there are absolutely seasons of life where sometimes a friendship may have been super intense and very full on, where there is an ebb and flow to it. And I think giving yourself permission to be okay with that, I think is wonderful. It can be, this is the source of the hurt, when friends are ghosting you, when they're taking something that is meant to be sacred and treasured between two people and disregarding it, disrespecting it, and not honoring it. That can be very hurtful. It can be very hurtful. And I think that's where, if not with that person, finding yourself in community, not having everything all hinged upon one relationship is really key.
Can I add a quick thing?
Yeah.
Don't do it alone. Find people that you could trust when you're going through a breakup. And the other part of the question was, how do you break up with someone? That's a loaded thing. Why are you breaking up with someone? And I want to just speak to how important boundaries are. I've seen my wife set boundaries to the closest friendship in her life. And I've seen how difficult that was. My gosh, that was difficult. And boundaries are good. It's to say, I need this space to get whole, or something's happening. And you talk about it. And at some point, there's maybe some space that's needed, and depends how things go. And I've seen that with my wife. We've lived it out. And it's a tough thing. Don't do it alone, but be healthy in the decisions you make. This is why I'm saying find a friend, to someone older maybe, to walk through.
Josh is older.
And the multi-generational thing helps with perspective of, am I communicating well? All that stuff.
Awesome. Okay, next question we have is on guy-girl friendships. So should we have them? And if so, how do we do that well? And are there boundaries that we should set in those?
Rob?
I was hoping this one wasn't going to get asked, actually, because I don't feel like I have a good answer for this. This is something I don't know, especially before I got married. I don't know if I always navigated this one well. Yes, it is possible. They are possible. Having a friendship between a man and a woman who are not romantically intertwined, it is possible. I think clarity of communication, of intentions, it needs to be even amplified above and beyond what might exist between a same gender friendship. Intentionality, naming things specifically, naming dynamics, and intentions, I think is just really important. I'll stop there because I don't think I have a lot to add.
I think this is a challenging one. I think it really is. Like coming from a ministry background is something that we deal a lot with, as far as for some reason dudes are pretty bad at being good with relationships like that, and so the pendulum can swing the other way, where it's like now no friends, no women friends, and I work with a lot of women in ministry who are looking for opportunities, but they're always at arm's length, because it's seen as a risky thing. So it's interesting to find that that can kind of happen naturally, or it's the like you said, I think the clarity, the misunderstanding. I'm a big fan of groups, just a fan of groups, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that my daughter is almost 18. I'm like, groups are great, and also like in a group, sometimes it's easier, like hypothetically, sometimes it'd be easier for Rob to come to me and be like, dude, you gotta just cool down a little bit. Okay. So I think that's an important part about it, having other people around, other friends around you.
There's friends, and then there's friends. And I don't know how you find out that boundary. All I could say is, for me, spend enough time with someone, I'm forming a friendship that's deeper than maybe I know how to even control. So as a married man, I'm very mindful of my friendships with women. And how could it not be as a not married man? So I'm saying, of course, you could have friends. Just between friends and friends can get tricky. So check yourself.
Yeah.
Great. This is a very timely one and a shameless plug for our next session. In about a month, we're going to be doing a talk on marriage and engagement. So this one is, in your life, how has friendship changed your marriage and your kids, and how do I prepare for that?
Can I take a quick swing at that one? My close friends have only enhanced my marriage and my relationship with my daughter. Awesome. I think in multiple ways. I'm watching other people parent their kids. I'm watching other people interact with their spouse, and I also have a place to share those things as well. I think investing in those relationships becomes more and more important, and it gets more and more challenging. We only get busier. I feel like I'm always busier, so that's something you have to fight and pay attention to.
I'll share maybe a quick anecdote to help add some color to that as well. Interestingly enough, the speakers for next month are also very close friends of Vanessa and I, and we had an interaction at in a couple years ago where they approached us, and they were really just bringing a conflict that they were having, and they just felt stuck in their communication. This is a husband and wife. They were feeling stuck in their communication, and they weren't looking to us even for they weren't looking to us for professional counseling or to help take sides or to solve the argument. What they were inviting us to do was to have a ministry of presence in the living room with them while they were simply trying to work out this tension and this conflict. The ability to have trusted friends in the room while working through conflict, I'd never really seen it so beautiful as I did in this interaction. And it was mostly Vanessa and I just being there, listening, maybe asking some clarifying questions, highlighting maybe where communication was getting hung up. And that was such a beautiful picture. We Reach has a counseling center. We are all about therapy and professional counselors, but also don't think less about the ability, the potential for the Holy Spirit in us with bringing friends together to actually help work through conflict in communication. And I think it's all the more so relevant in marriage relationship and in family dynamics.
For sure. Okay, well, we maybe should have warned you. This group does ask some deep questions, so there's another one coming at you. So, Rob, I'm guessing this gets thrown back at you. But how do you handle excluding someone from your inner circle when they're including you in theirs, if you don't necessarily think they belong in your own inner circle?
That's a really good question, and that is a really challenging dynamic when expectations in a friendship are not aligned or miscalibrated. And sometimes we can sense that based upon maybe invitations or the frequency of phone calls or text messages that we're receiving from someone, where it's like, oh wait, we're reading the room a little bit differently here. In some ways, this is similar to the question about kind of guy-girl friendships. I think there's my bias is always towards, again, clarity is kindness, and sometimes saying the hard thing, saying the truth about the expectations or the availability in a particular relationship is the kindest, though most challenging thing to do. Because I think the most unkind thing to do would be to not bring clarity, for allow there to be ambiguity and allowing those miscalibrated expectations to be prolonged and potentially deepen or worsen disappointment, hurt, consequences that would come down the line. And so I'm very biased towards leaning into the hard, awkward conversations. And I think this is just another great scenario that would really justify that, even though the easy thing might be to avoid it, but we lean in. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
Just to add on to that, there's a fuel that drives your behavior. Shame, guilt, let's just stick with shame and guilt. Those are bad fuels to deal with that scenario. It's going to come out stinky and bad, and it's not going to operate well. Good boundaries and love lets you create the boundaries you need, like even love for the other person. Because you might, if you're in the situation where you're like, this isn't working, you could just be like manipulated by your own thinking of the situation to like keep hanging out with them or to keep, soothing that relationship or to do weird things. We act weird when shame and guilt is our fuel. But if that's not your fuel and you love the other person and you just realize, I don't have the time for this or this isn't for me, but you genuinely love the other person, there's good fuel to be clear and act, and it won't come across mucky. Might hurt because sometimes stuff hurts, but it will be at least clear and loving with its fuel source.
I'll add one quick thing, and it's only this. I don't have good advice. I can just tell you, I've lived on both sides, and one side is better. So for years, my tendency would to just withdraw from a difficult situation. In any case, if I didn't like the job, I'd just disappear. Didn't like the person, I'd just disappear. The problem is, even though I would leave the situation would stick with me. So those things like dig deep roots in our hearts, and they mess with our brains, and it starts to really jack us up. So when it actually came from the movie Moneyball. There's a scene where the guy's got to let this guy go, and he's like, just give it to him. So he goes and he's like, we're trading you, you're leaving. And the dude's like, okay. So I saw the movie and I thought, I'm going to try that. So the next difficult conversation I had, I'm like, I'm not going to spend 45 minutes like, hey, how you doing? Life is great, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I don't like you anymore, bye. Or just not say it, but just disappear. I just decided, I'm just going to sit down and say, hey, here's why we're here today. And just go in. And the freedom on the other side of that painful situation is so much better than that like lagging, nagging thing that you drag along with you if you never deal with it. Yeah.
Good point.
Awesome. We have time for one more. I'm going to end us with one that I think is pretty pertinent for the 20s and 30s age range. How do you maintain close relationships when friends of yours are going through major life changes? So marriages, job changes, moving, things like that are just making them draw within, making them kind of maybe be more internal and need to spend more space with their really close group.
I'll just say really quick. I think Rob hit it on the nose earlier when he said seasons. That's just so true. And and the truth of it is, I don't know if there's anybody in the room that's been through more seasons than me. But there's so many of them. And I think knowing that even the friends we're connected to are going to have different seasons. The nature of our group is different. When we started, there were only 2 of us that were married, and 3 of us were married and 2 of us had kids. And it would be, hey, tomorrow we're all doing this thing. And you just drop what you're doing and go. Yeah. But then as Rob goes off to like Amazon and turns into zombie Rob for a couple of years, just like working at the job. Rob was not as available as he used to be. Because the whole time, not only was Rob working at the job, babies were coming. Boom, 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 boom. And that was happening with a bunch of different guys. And so there was a season where we did all kinds of active stuff together, and there are seasons where we haven't. And I feel like now as kids are getting older, we're actually like kind of re-engaging a little bit more than we were for that like middle chunk.
Yeah. I think that would be my encouragement. I know it can feel like the almost the triple whammy of friends starting to date, friends getting married, babies, career stuff, so much stuff crescendos in your 30s that it can feel very much like, oh, this is the end of a friendship. This is the severing of a friendship. And I hope a part of even our story tonight is a source of inspiration that if you play the long game, if you understand that the relational proximity will ebb and flow over these seasons of life, but have a vision for the long run of, again, not being like our dads, all right? Having friends. There is absolutely a way to navigate that. It will look different. It will absolutely look different from when the days we can like, oh, we're going to go climb a mountain tomorrow. Let's go and rally. It does look different. And so it's a resetting of expectations, and I think just playing the long game and having a vision, knowing that this is not a severing. It is a shifting of a season. And it's actually very normal, and it can be very healthy in a friendship.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much, Rob, Josh, Elbron. Oh, sorry, Elbron.
No, we're good.
Are you good?
Do we have time or no?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Well, whoever said that, thank you. Well, my best friends are my old best friends. How do you say this? Gosh, it's hard. I left my best friends when I moved here. That was the season change from like self-inflicted. The first thing I want to say is just know that your friendships can last and endure. You know what I mean? Like you could come back to some friendships that have go through change, and that's okay. You can endure. The second one is find older friends. Stuff doesn't change as much there. It's a bit of a joke. But here's the one I want to leave you with that I really thought about and I really care about. Sometimes we become codependent in our friendships. I want to tell you all that your source right now, man, you're made for friendships. You're made for relationships. As I mentioned, that's how God made all of you, because that's who our God is. He is relationship. But if you draw from a well from a friend all the time, I could do this with my own wife, believe it or not, where she becomes my joy and God doesn't. When something goes meh, and sometimes it goes meh for a day or two or whatever, where is my joy coming from? Where is my hope? Where's my source? I want to encourage you. It's super, super real. You got a friend in Jesus. I know it sounds corny, but it is just real. Give me some nods if you know what I mean. And if you don't yet know fully what I mean, it's all right. We're all growing in that. And he becomes your source. So when friendships do sometimes go haywire, well, beautifully, have friends get married or whatever, you are secure in where you're drawing your well from. And he replenishes your friendships. He cares about you. He cares about your connections. And he knows what you want. And he'll actually reveal to you the things that your hearts are looking for. So you're not just clinging you're doing it with an open, loving hand.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Give them a hand.